And I remember going out on the balcony and looking out at this spectacular view and thinking, Denison, you have a choice to make. If you buy this place, you will still be working here in 30 years' time. And I thought, no, I want to write and I want to travel. So I went back indoors, and a couple of days later I said to Jack, no, Jack, actually I've decided to leave. I'm quitting. Well, fortunately, the Alberta government had decided to build a new museum in Drumheller, down near Calgary, 100 miles from Calgary. And I had bought this little cottage down there. I mean, it was no big deal. It was 250 square feet, had no running water, but it was on the Red Deer River, and it was $8,000, and I was really chuffed with it. So they were building this museum. They needed a writer. They couldn't get a writer because everybody said, well, I'm not going to Drumheller. I'm not leaving Edmonton. And so I went down to meet the head of the museum, Dr. David Baird, who was a Newfoundland geologist. And he, as I described him to Jack when I got back, I said, I'm not working for him. He's a cantankerous bastard. And Jack laughed and he said, yes, but you owe me a favor, and I'm calling in that favor. I need somebody there immediately. So I said, okay, I owe you, absolutely, I will go. But I'll only go for 3 months while you hire somebody else. I'll keep the seat warm, keep everybody happy. So I went down there and I worked for Dr. Baird for 3 months. Actually, we became very good friends. Yes, he could be very difficult. I remember writing an article, not writing, he asked me to do a report. And it was just when word processors were coming into the office. And I got permission, as it were, from the secretaries to use this Wang word processor. Nobody else was allowed to use it except the secretaries. And I would use it, and I wrote this thing, did this report for him. And he told me to do it in a particular way, with things on the left page, things on the right page. And when I gave it to him, it wasn't quite laid out like that, because I couldn't figure out on the word processor how to do it. And he said, I thought I told you to lay it out in this particular way. And I said, yes, but I can't get the machine to do that. And he just looked at me and said, what? I said, well, I can't get the machine to do it. And he just tore the report and ripped it up, gave it back to me and said, never let technology dictate to you. He was a fun guy. He really was. He was a hard worker. Ay, ay, ay. I mean, during the time that he was director of the museum, he was also building a canoe in his garage, and he was also writing scientific papers. But he was very difficult to deal with. When they opened the Tyrrell Museum of Paleontology, he was not invited to the official lunch. He was on the podium to cut the ribbon, well, the minister cut the ribbon. But even though the museum opened ahead of time, under budget, and now has over 300,000 visitors a year, is now the Royal Museum of Paleontology and is the largest paleontology museum in North America, he was not actually invited to the lunch after. So myself and Jack and the lady who was going to replace me, we took him out for lunch. And that was fine. And his wife was there. She was a deputy editor of Canadian Geographic magazine. And we were talking, she was saying something, and this was typical of Dr. Baird. She said something, and he just put his knife and fork down and looked at his wife and said, that is the most ignorant thing I've ever heard somebody say. And we all just sort of froze. And she didn't bat an eyelid. She just looked at him and said, David, wait until I get you home. Which put him, he just shrank and deflated into his place. Anyway, he was fun to work with. So I worked there for 3 months, and then I decided I am going to go to India.